This is Andy Purewal for ID Boxing. I'm joined by Sky Sports and former Cruiserweight World Champion Johnny Nelson here in London. Johnny, do you prefer being referred to as a former world champion or the man of Sky Sports?
You know what? A lot of people actually forgot they ever boxed. So when you say to them, Nelson boxed, no chance. So I'm easy. I'm pretty cool, man. I'm whatever you want.
Well, we'll stick with world champion. Johnny, here we are. Finally, Eubank Jr. Smith-Eubank Jr. too is formally about to be announced. Obviously, we're doing this before a press conference, but yes, here we are. Surprised, unsurprised that it's on, or?
You know what? I am surprised. I actually thought Eubank wouldn't do this. I looked and thought, what can he change? Could it be a weight thing that you can change? Is a weight clause? Could it be? Was there things going on that we didn't know about? I just don't know what difference there would be in his mindset and approach to this. Now the deal has been done. We've got to wait until the press conference has been, because these questions are going to get asked. These questions are going to be laid on him. So you just got to hear what you've got to say. But in reality, I think Smith's pedigree, skill came through, patience came through, and he's waited and waited. You'd think he was the one that lost. He was waiting for Eubank to make the decision on what he's doing now. And our options were there for him, but I think it's been a good fight. I'm really looking forward to it.
John, I did a Zoom with Roy Jones about a week and a half or so ago now, and he said that in the build-up to the first fight, he didn't quite agree with how Junior dropped for weight in fight week, and then he had his most recent exhibition and he did it in a similar way, and then he understood why Junior loses weight in the manner he does more so. But it somewhat seemed to be that he wasn't happy with the loss of weight in fight week.
So in our sport, you know, the old boys like me, you go through experiences to get wisdom. And so instead of having to go through that wisdom yourself, you pick up the experience off the people that have the wisdom. So if Roy is advising him what would be best for him down the line, he should listen. Now, Chris isn't used to being in a position where he runs a shop. He tells the coach what he's going to do. He runs a shop. And his dad was the same, basically saying, we don't need a trainer. We just need somebody to do their job, what we ask them to do. In our game, you can't do that. You can't do that because you'll be exposed. You'll be found wanting. And I think if there is something to change, he needs counsel. He needs that counsel. He needs someone, an old head, someone that's wise, that can give him the words of wisdom through experience, not to make himself look important. And Roy Jones Jr. is that man. But again, you know, if Roy won't say anything to make himself look silly. He'll be very honest and very straightforward with what he's got to say. So we'll see. We'll see if Roy is involved in this camp this time. We'll see if what differences Junior will make, because it wasn't a loss. It was a devastating loss. And if he depends on what angle he goes on in regards to why he lost. I'm intrigued to see how today goes.
Again, just going back to my conversation with Roy, it certainly seems like there's no fallout between him and Junior. They'll be working together going into this rematch. With that in mind, is that at all a surprise to you? Because on the back of the first fight, a lot of people started to kind of bring up past comments as to how maybe Roy's looked to implement his style onto Junior and it hasn't necessarily blended well.
Talk is cheap. When a fighter and trainer is working together, they have to blend. You know, they have to be on the same page. You have to agree on with the same intention. So it doesn't matter what everybody says around, as long as it works for those two. Yes, I saw Babic box at the weekend, and he joined forces with a new trainer. This trainer was trying to get him to box more than he was to bash. That's savage by name, savage by nature. Before that fight, I said, this is a bad move for this particular fight. If Savage ever had to be Savage, it has to be right now for this particular fight. So he learnt a harsh lesson for Chris. Chris has to decide what he's going to do, what his best attributes are, what got him here in the first place, and can he implement what's something new that he's brought into his game to somebody that's seasoned, that's proven, that's actually been there, done that, that's actually turned him over before into this game. It's a big risk to take with somebody with so much skill.
Johnny, it was obviously a terrific performance from Liam in that first fight without overlooking how he performed, and with that in mind, do you think that in his head now he has Junior's number?
I do, and you know what, before I gave Junior a chance, I thought maybe this is the right times now, and I won't do that again. And Junior, I'm quite sure Junior expects that to be the case, where the people he had believing in him They saw what they saw. You can't tell me, believe me, and not your lying eyes. So I think Liam Smith proved that, you know what, I have everything and more to beat this guy.
What do you expect from the outcome of a rematch?
I expect the same thing, but probably a little longer. That's all. I think Chris will be a little more cautious on this occasion. But I expect the same turnout, but a little bit. The fight will probably go a few more rounds.
John, just linking with Junior, there's obviously a lot of talk of him potentially facing Conor Benn instead of Liam Smith for this rematch. We saw UKAD officially charge Conor last week. What were your thoughts on him receiving that charge from them?
Thoughts are exactly the same. He failed a drug test. He's having to suffer the consequences, regardless of what VAR said or not. That was the case. Nothing. The initial charge hasn't been resolved. It's still the same. So it doesn't want to matter what else you add to the Christmas tree. It's still the same. So take the ban, put your hands up, do your time, get on with your career instead of delaying. And you never know. You might have actually, without it being public knowledge, you might have actually said, "Oh, I'll accept the ban," and he might be on his ban now, but it'll make as much noise and argument as it is. You never know.
That would kind of somewhat boxing, as it were. How much of a surprise, if at all, would it be to you if that was to be the case?
If that was the case, it wouldn't be a surprise at all, because at the end of the day, I know he said he's given up his British Boxing Board of Control licence. He'll box here in the UK again, and to do that, he's got to get his licence here in the UK again. We say a lot of things in the heat of emotion, frustration. I understand, as far as he's concerned, he's innocent. And unfortunately, the masses are doubting that because of the obvious that's in front of you. So it'll be a matter of time, but I believe he'll get a British Boxing Board of Control licence again after he's served his ban.
Just away from Conor, just sticking with this card. Savannah Marshall moves up to 168 to face Crews-Dezurn. Another crack at an undisputed championship. Just your thoughts on her moving up, decided not to stick at 160 or moving down if she could have to 154. Just your thoughts on Savannah moving up for this bout.
For Savannah, she's a tall unit, good boxer. I thought she would give Clarissa a good run from one. I actually thought she'd beat Clarissa. Clarissa showed her skill, her talent, her speed, everything about her. So therefore, Savannah knew in that division, as long as Clarissa's there, it's never going to happen. She accepts that. Now she's moved up where she'll feel more comfortable, stronger. She spars with the likes of you if you're on a regular basis. So now you'll see the difference it makes. I remember when I boxed at cruiserweight at 13 stone 8, I was strong, but when they stepped the weight up to 14.4, I couldn't believe how much of a difference it made to my performance, my energy levels, my strength. So I think this will suit Savannah down to the ground.
How do you expect the fight to play out?
Savannah's a great boxer. I think she's a clever fighter. I think this might be that time when she finally pulls it off.
Stepping away from this, just go back to this past weekend, we saw the Savage, as you mentioned, suffer what was a shock first round defeat against Lucas Rozansky for that WBC Cruiserweight title. Just your take on what unfolded in that bout.
It was a Bridgerweight title they boxed.
Bridgerweight, sorry.
So what unfolded was Savage, even before the fight, and once Dan Aziz explained to me about the change of trainer, a great technician, I said this doesn't suit Savage. That if that's going to be implemented, you won't see the benefits of that until 3 fights down the line. You don't want to walk into a fight half in, half out. You've got to stick to what you're going to do. This is my game plan. He went out there, he got hit, got clipped. He's thinking instinctively, shall I box, shall I fight, shall I box, shall I fight? There's no time for that. His opponent had knocked 6 of opponents, his opponents out in the first 6 rounds. Out of 14 fights, he'd knocked 13 of them out. He'd won all 14. Now you look at him, he looks like an Andi Ruiz. You think, well, there's nothing about him. Savage has to find out the hard way, and so it's something that he's going to struggle so much to deal with. And the only thing he can do is try and get a rematch and try and to right that wrong. Because if he doesn't, that will scar him, his outlook, his attitude, going into future fights.
how damaging, sorry, can a defeat like that be? Because he's built himself up to be war savage, to be somebody who's known just going in there and just getting into a bit of a ruck with whoever's in the opposite corner. When you get taken out in the first round, how damaging can that be for your confidence?
Exactly. So you're going to look for every excuse possible for why this has happened. For the first time, he's punching down an opponent. For the first time, he's gone in there and he's actually made a smaller version of himself. For the first time, he's got in there, and now he's had somebody really put it on him, done what he does to everybody else. So you'll think of all these things. It's so hard to change your mindset and respect someone in front of you mid-fight. And he went through all of that night. So now he needs to train for that particular opponent, like Anthony Joshua did when he lost to Andi Ruiz. And he came back, thought, right, I've got to train for this particular fighter. It's not one fits all. You know, every fighter is different. And so hopefully they will have some kind of rematch set up there, because it was a good fight, good build-up. But if he hasn't, I think it can be very damaging to his confidence.
Johnny, on that card we saw Martin Bakole come out with another knockout victory. Your thoughts on his brief stint in the ring as well, and his altercation with Dillian Whyte?
So first of all, I think Martin Bakole and Billy Nelson, I've got to give it him. He phoned me the next day and said, how can you say my fight is just big and strong? And I said, you know what, I had to change my mindset as the night went on. I said, he's big, strong unit, and he'll keep the pressure on you. And if he's there in front of him, you know, he'll get rid of you. Hunter was smart enough and smooth enough to hustle his way in and out and around. Now, for Bakole is building up in confidence and feeling more comfortable about himself. And the stories you hear that are happening in training, at first you doubt them. Then after that performance, I thought, you know, I could actually see the things he's telling me that are correct. But in training, sparring's like sparring. It's not something you're going to put in your record books. So he got the job done, and I don't mean he just won. He beat him up. He butchers him. He beat him up, and he did a great job. So then he's got to turn around. He's got to get people to speak about him. He's got to get people to recognise him, because he's in the Who Needs Him club. The Who Needs Him club he's got nothing to offer. He's not a big sell, because he's not got a massive fan base. So therefore, it's risk reward. If you're a champion, why would you pick Bakole? Because he's dangerous, and he could turn you over. So it's convenient for everybody to forget him and not talk about him. So he decided to chase the biggest hat that was there in the arena, which was Dillian Whyte. Which Dillian Whyte himself said afterwards, "Why should I fight him? He's got nothing to offer me." Again, raised an eyebrow. What's the benefits there? I don't know. Dillian Whyte's moving in one direction, so is Bakole. So Bakole's got to do that. He's got to chase. And Dillian Whyte's got to chase to further his career rather than look back at his career. So that'd be a good fight. It would be an interesting fight to see.
We know Dillian wants the Anthony Joshua fight. It seems to be that we might get that four-man tournament towards the end of the year, which has been spoken about, so leaves Dillian a bit in the lurch. A potential fight with Martin Bakole would certainly be one which I think the fans would be pleased with. You yourself, would you be happy to see a Bakole-Whyte fight?
I totally agree, and as I said, it's risk reward. Why would Whyte do it? Why would he do it? He's more looking in one direction. Unfortunately for him, Bakole is looking in his direction. Bakole may be in a position to be made a mandatory challenger. I think it's for Usyk's title if Dubois doesn't step up to it. So Bakole has options, that the realistic options for himself. For Dillian, I understand on a business front why you wouldn't take that fight. On a sporting front, why would you take that fight? It's a dangerous fight. It is a dangerous fight. I think Bakole throws the shots in the angle Dillian dips in. Bakole's big and strong enough to and tip tap bash enough when the shots say let's go to give Dillian trouble. But Dillian has experience. He lives that life, and so you got to side with the experience. So until Bakole does something, you think, oh my God, this is him. This is what he's done. You know, you've got to side with Dillian.
Just away from that one, sticking with heavyweight division though, Fury-Ruiz or Fury-Zhang are the latest reports. Happy with either of those, Johnny?
I think Fury-Ruiz would be more intriguing. I think Zhang showed a good big one will beat another good big one. And so what he did to Joe Joyce was doing to everybody else. His pace a little faster than Joe Joyce. You couldn't fight someone like Zhang to stand in front of him. You know, you got away with that with everybody else. You know, he showed his toughness, showed everything, but he came up against another guy that was as tough, that could punch as hard. That's when you depend on skills. And Joe's Joe's persistence of pressure on all these other opponents. It worked. It didn't work on Zhang. And so Zhang did exactly what he had to do. Tyson Fury against him, I think Tyson Fury too cute for him. I think he'd be too smart for him. The first half of the fight would be dangerous, but Fury will grab and box and hold and tie up, and then the rounds will slow down. But I'd go more Ruiz. I'd go Ruiz has got fast hands. He's underrated. He was massively underrated until he turned over Anthony Joshua. Still a dangerous fight at hand for him, but I think that's one where people can make the comparisons again with the Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, if it ever happened.
I do think Tyson's in that unfortunate position where a lot of people are critical on any opponent he faces now if it isn't Alexander Usyk. With that in mind, Fury-Ruiz, some people have been saying, Anthony Joshua was able to outbox him in the second fight with relative ease. Now Tyson Fury could do anything he wants to when he steps between rows.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. So he's unfortunately, he's never going to win. And unfortunately, I think the public are now seeing through the BS in regards to why fights. Because I can't think of any top heavyweight fighter where so many fights have fallen by the wayside for one reason or another, be it through negotiations or whatever it is. So I think Tyson Fury will probably be his own worst enemy. But if you had to choose between the two, I would choose Ruiz. That's what I do. That's how I'd work it.
Johnny, sticking with the heavyweights, Anthony Joshua, as we mentioned, that four-man tournament towards the end of the year, a lot of people critical over if AJ should fight somebody else in the interim before heading into something like that. Is it a surprise to you that AJ did put that post up a couple of months after the fight with Jermaine Franklin and said he wanted to have a big fight in December and there was news coming? Do you think he needs to have an interim fight again?
No, because I've always said Anthony Joshua needs to have time off to get his head right. He's not a fighter that's been beat up and he needs to be out there. He's professionally a young fighter. He's years as a fighter. He needs to feel comfortable. He needs to get his confidence truly back. He needs to decide what kind of fighter he is. He needs to believe in who he is. And so I think this time off gives him time to concentrate on the fundamentals, the basics, get them right. And and he's got something to work towards. So I think this time was perfect for Anthony Joshua. I wouldn't have had the last fight. I'd have had time off. He's experienced something else in his career where he was publicly, people were kind of dissing the fight, dissing him and checking on who he is. And he's had to learn another side of how fickle the public can be. So I think it suits Anthony Joshua down to the ground. It's the best thing for him.
People were critical of his performance against Jermaine Franklin and they were looking at his performance and saying maybe he looked a little gun-shy, maybe he was a little too worried about what was coming back at him. The talks of a Wilder fight, Deontay is the heaviest-handed man in the division.
I understand what you're saying. And I said previously, I saw some footage with Anthony Joshua and Joe Josh sparring. Anthony looked unbelievable. And I thought, oh my God, now I see what they see in the gym. Oh, it looked unbelievable. He doesn't fight anything like that, but he looked outstanding. I think with the criticism he got from the last fight, I also criticised him because I think you're former two-time world heavyweight champion. You're fighting like a kid that actually doesn't believe in what he's done and what he's achieved. You're still looking over to your corner mid-fight, looking for confirmation, validation from your cornerman mid-fight. That's a novice move. I'm saying own who you are, own what you do, own your special, own your talent. Stop questioning. Is this right? Is that right? At this point, people like Mike Tyson, you just take the muzzle off when the bell goes, off you go, come back, give him instruction, off you go. And AJ's still looking for counsel from others outside the ring when the bell goes, where actually he should just get on with it. That's my only criticism. Own who you are. Stop being... I don't know, and he's very good at making you and I feel very comfortable in asking our opinion of how he should fight. And as a fighter, an active fighter, no, you don't do that now, especially with what he's achieved. I understand at the early stages, you speak to your coach, you speak to training, get the job done right, this is my job. Own your special, own who you are. That's my only criticism, which affects his game.
Final one, Johnny, before I let you go. This past weekend, we also saw a terrific fight between Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia, which ended with Gervonta getting that 7th round stoppage victory via a body shot. Did you manage to catch it?
I didn't see the body shot. Yeah. I didn't see it, and I think it's like the phantom shot with Ali and Liston. I didn't see the body shot, but I think if Garcia had won, he'd have been elevated to an absolute superstar because he's got that YouTube thing about him, hasn't he? That youth thing about him. Davis did the job, and he did a good job. I think Garcia will move up and be a star at another division. But you know, the build-up was great. The fight lived up to expectations until the stoppage, and I was kind of underwhelmed, if I'm honest. And it makes me question the cojones of Garcia. But I didn't see the shot. I kept rewinding. I'm thinking, when? So unless the shot was probably 30 seconds before, and he's trying to style it out, and thinking, I just can't breathe. But that's just how. Do you do that in a fight?
I mean, the shot, obviously, it's been circulating over social media for everybody. I missed it at the time as well when I was watching. I waited for it to come back, but a body shot, you know, people are critical over whether or not a fighter should have got up, especially because of that delayed reaction. What do you make of anybody who can critique someone?
I've heard fighters say, I will never lose from a body shot. Rubbish. I've heard the public say, how can you lose from a body shot? Rubbish. I'd prefer to get knocked out than be given a good old body shot, because when it's a body shot, you're conscious, you can't breathe, you're crippled, you can't get up. And so on, people don't understand that. I prefer to be out cold so I actually can't do anything. But your head's telling you one thing, your body's telling you another. So if you're caught with a good body shot, if you've never had one, you can't talk. If you're fighting, and I'm quite sure, I'm trying to think of a fight that said they never go down from a body shot. Can't remember what it was. But it does happen. That is actually worse than a knockout because you're conscious. So you can't underestimate how painful the shot was.
Johnny, thankfully I'm on this side of the camera and not your side, so I don't need to experience that. But I appreciate your time as always. Look forward to getting going here today, and thanks for speaking to me.
Nice one. Anytime.